We're going to do a spoiler discussion video for Have You Seen Sarah Baker by T.A Cruz. So let's get started. So there's like roughly 40 chapters in this book. So instead of going through every single one of my notes, I'm just going to kind of rapid fire this. Love Sheriff Mills. Honestly, even though he's a crotchety, stubborn old man, I did enjoy his character, and I really did enjoy Holloway as well. It was interesting to learn kind of about their childhoods and their backstories, which really explains the dynamic between the two of them. Sarah is a creep. I'm just going to say it. Did not enjoy that part of the story. I realize that it is a big, crucial part of the story that she is crushing on a student and then turns around and has relations with that student. Regardless of him, like, putting roses on her desk and all these different things, like, he's a 17-year-old kid. And I think she said something about there being a 17-year age gap between the two of them. Gross. Even if, like, your marriage is absolutely falling apart, like, find somebody your own age. That Hannah chick is such a bitch, dude. And I thought it was hilarious when they get pulled into the office because she's like, my teacher called me a spoiled little bitch. But they're, like, beefing over the 17-year-old kid. So again, I cannot get over that part. The captor, right, the guy that kidnaps her, could not figure out what his deal was for the longest time. He quotes a lot of Bible verses, and he acts like he's, like, her savior. I don't know. So that took me a minute to kind of figure out. And I was just like, what is this dude's deal? Like, why does he want her? Like, was it set up by the husband? Like, what happened? When Sarah tries to escape and her leg gets caught in a bear trap, my knees went so weak. I was like, I cannot even imagine. For some reason, bear traps freak me out. But then after that, he, like, starts bringing her to the table to eat and stuff, and, like, kind of starts to, like, get to know her. And the point where he was like, how far along are you? I was like, no freaking way. And then he says, tell me how you met your child's father. And she goes on and on and on to talk about how she met her husband, John. And he's like, thanks for telling me how you met your husband, but that's not what I asked you. How did you meet your child's father? And that is when I knew that it was Sean's baby. And I was like, no way, dude. Like, that's so crazy. That was the point where I couldn't put this book down. I was like, she did not. Like, no. But she did. She sure did. At a dance. She was all distraught because she had caught her husband cheating on her nights before. And she found solace in a 17-year-old boy. So they get it on at this dance. And that girl, Jessie, who is the unalive teen, sees them. Oh, and before this, she, like, gets into it with Hannah, which is Sean's girlfriend, and, like, tells her a bunch of stuff, and she goes off crying. So then Jessie's like, hey, my ride ditched me. Like, can you help me out? Can you give me a ride? So Sarah's like, yeah, okay, whatever. On the ride, Jessie basically blackmails her and was like, you're gonna buy me a new car, you're gonna buy me this, you're gonna buy me that, because she's like, she lives in, like, a trailer park and she's not very well off and things like that. Or, I'm going to tell everyone that you were hooking up with Sean. And Sarah's like, no one's gonna believe you. And then Jessie pulls out a video. Yeah. So then guess who unalives Jessie? Yeah. She drives really fast, slams on the brakes real crazy. Jessie's head goes flying into the dashboard or whatever. And then she just goes completely unconscious. And then the teacher basically smashes her head in with a rock and just leaves her there. My jaw dropped. My jaw was, like, on the floor. And it doesn't stop there. She continues to hook up with Sean repeatedly, telling herself every time, this is the last time, this is wrong, this is the last time, I can't do this, whatever. But keeps doing it. Then, when she sneaks Sean over one day, John comes home early or whatever from work, and so she pushes Sean out the door, and then she hooks up with John because she needed a cover story as to why she was, unclothed. Then she finds out that she's expecting, and she knows that it's Sean's. But she tells John that it's his. Then she tells Sean, hey, this happened. This is the situation that I'm in. And you can't be involved because if you're involved, I'm going to jail. And Sean's like, no. Also, when your baby comes out, this is how he phrases it. He says, if your baby comes out brown, and both of y'all are white, like, how are you going to explain that? And she's like, I'd rather tell him I hooked up with some random dude on the internet. And he's just, like, appalled by this and, like, so hurt. So anyways, they're at this, like, special clearing he went to with his dad when he was a kid. And, she pushes him, and he falls off a cliff, and, is gone after that. I called it, but I didn't call it until she was telling him that she was expecting a kid, and then she goes on about how she meets her husband, and he's like, that's not what I asked you, how'd you meet your child's father? And I was like, oh my god, it's Sean's dad. So then she gets kidnapped by Sean's dad, right? And then Sean's dad is, like, taking care of her through this pregnancy, and she doesn't know that it's Sean's dad yet. But he leaves one day. She had taken, like, a fork prong off of a fork at one point to try to, like, pick the lock. And when she does that, she goes up in his room. She's, like, looking through all his stuff and finds out that he has a kid and whatever. I still don't think she puts two and two together, though. Anyway, she tries to escape. While she's escaping, she starts going into labor. So she's like screaming for someone to help her. So obviously he shows up. He takes her back to the basement and does a basement C-section. Yeah. He delivers this baby. At the same time that he delivers this baby, the police have figured out who he is, and they have figured out where to find him. So he delivers this baby, and when the baby comes out, she's like, give me my baby, what's wrong? And he's like, you did this is your fault, this is your fault. So it seems like there's something wrong with the baby, but they never go into detail about that. As the police show up, he has the baby. She's laying out all C-sectioned up, and Holloway's like, hey, look, like, you need to give me the baby, and like, we need to figure this out. He refuses, and then you just hear, like, basically it's just like a, pew pew goes off. Sheriff Mills figures out where Holloway is, and he shows up there, and unfortunately Holloway is unalived. Sarah is also unalived because she was just filleted out. And Sean, which is Michael's dad, is gone with the baby. I didn't really get into all of the investigation stuff, like Mills and Holloway and their relationship and how the investigation unfolded, because otherwise this would be a 20-minute long video, and this is already going to be pretty long. Drop your comments, because this book was crazy to me. And I don't know if I liked it, if I didn't like it. It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. I don't know. What did you think?